Before we start our episode, Vincenzo, I have to apologize to you, unfortunately, and to
Already.
our listeners already. It's only our third episode, and I'm already apologizing because I listened back to our episode 1. So we've had episode 0 and then episode 1. And in episode 1, I was listening, and it turns out I have a catchphrase. Did you pick up on that?
I'm Colombian.
No,
In Colombia.
it's way worse. I was about to murder myself, actually. Apparently, I like to say, the reality is.
The reality is.
And I'm listening and I'm getting aggro against myself, thinking, Lali, how many realities can there be?
Well,
The
is it
reality is,
your reality or is it everyone else's
I
reality?
don't know whose reality I'm living in, but apparently I live in a lot of realities. So I wanted to apologize to everyone. And the reality is, it's very unconscious, but I will make an effort today to not say the reality is
It's a
because I don't want to.
Colombian thing. It's a Colombian thing. Well, I wasn't expecting that, so I the reality is it's okay.
Okay. Hola, Vincenzo.
Hola, Lali. Welcome back to the Business of Speed podcast. I'm Vincenzo Landino, and my co-host that you've already listened to talk about her realities, multiple realities, Lali Mikkelsen. Lali, let's talk a little bit today. We've been having this discussion. We had a little bit of this discussion in New York, and we talked a little bit about it last time we recorded tracks or circuits or just the races in general, where the races are held. I think there is the challenge with financials behind a race is more than just what many of us see. There's what what the promoter has to put on. There's hosting fees. There's a rights holder involved, whether it's Formula One or MotoGP or WEC or NASCAR, IndyCar, whoever the rights holder is. And we were talking about this because we had a conversation with the gentleman about premium hospitality and revenue diversification and how those seem to be the only paths to profitability. And it got me thinking, well, what are those entry costs and what is the kind of behind the scenes for a promoter when it comes to hosting an event? It's beyond buying some good signage, creating some cool videos. There's a massive entry fee, right? And if we're going to talk about Formula One, I think because the numbers are bigger there and they're a
Yeah.
little bit more people can take to those numbers a little bit more. You're looking at, what, $70 million, let's say, to just have the privilege of hosting an event.
Yes.
That buys you a license to operate your event. The first thing that people ask, and we were actually recorded this, we had recorded a clip. One of the social clips that we made was around people not understanding supply and demand and why tickets are no longer 50 euros, 50 pounds, $50 for a weekend anymore, and why it doesn't exist. We thought this was a good path to go down, understanding and answering that question. So how do we close the financial gap? How do you make up the difference? You're in the whole 70 million. If you've
Exactly.
built a track from scratch, which doesn't happen often anymore, there's another hundreds of millions, if not
Yeah.
more, that you're building.
But we can even start with like a track that's built. You've paid your 70 million, right? But so if you think about it, there's this like new show, John Hamm. It's called Your Friends and Neighbors, and some of our
Great show.
listeners, great show. And there's a line in it that I adore, and I'm paraphrasing him. And he says that rich people aren't broke, they're leveraged, right? So a racetrack is the ultimate leverage. You are leveraged beyond anything you've ever been in your life, right? So the promoter starts out in the hole. It's a massive fixed liability. The whole operation takes, not only think about it like concessions, hospitality, you have to make the track look beautiful. What if it rains? People don't show up. It's just this scramble to generate revenue. Only in the function of offsetting this massive hosting fee that you just said could be up to $70 million depending on the track. So it's really like a gamble, right? It's this high risk game and it's built on one massive and very fixed and very mandatory expenditure right off the bat, right? So, yeah, maybe people don't realize the level of gamble that a promoter is in. People are like, oh my God, it costs so much money. I can't believe I'm paying this and that. They don't realize the risk involved for these
Sure.
promoters.
Yeah, and it's risk, it's real dollar. I mean, these are massive dollars you're dealing with. They're real businesses, right? These are businesses. I say we, fans tend to look at these things. We go to a football match or a basketball game or whatever it might be, and you kind of come to expect a level of amenities, right? You expect something when you go there. You're paying a ticket to get a seat, really. But the modern game is a lot different. You have two separate businesses, especially in motorsports, right? Well, I say it's most sports are like this. You
But in
have
motorsports, it's a clear model. Yes, there's 2
absolutely,
separate
absolutely,
businesses.
yes. Yeah, that's actually great because oftentimes the promoter may not necessarily own the circuit where they race at either, right? They
Often.
are just paying to race at a circuit. Oftentimes, it's not every day. Las Vegas is very different, but that's also a city circuit. Miami's different. They own that. Not everything is like that. Not every situation is exactly like those. But you have two real different businesses going on, and they are competing with one another. You've got your rights holder, like we said, Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, whoever the racing body is. They're controlling things like the media, the broadcast, major sponsorships, right? Which that also gets tricky. Like in Monaco, where Monaco was sponsored by Tag Heuer. Meanwhile, Formula One had Rolex as the sponsor at
Yeah,
the
that was a
time.
bit of a
Now it's all one, but things
there
like
are
that
competing
are a real
interests.
situation.
Yeah, competing interests, competing stakeholders for sure.
Where do they take profit? What inventory does the promoter get to keep? What do they have control over?
I love this because I feel that this episode, Vincenzo, is gonna help really clear up the business model for so many people, and that's why we were both so excited about doing it, right? So you spoke to the rights holders. So think of a racetrack as having two silos. The rights holders that Vincenzo just talked about, that's one segment of the business. And then the other segment is the aforementioned highly leveraged promoter. So they get sort of think of it like the local cash business. Things like ticket sales, concessions, all the trackside hoarding, and something that is sort of the marquee of a racetrack, the premium hospitality.
Yeah, we should definitely touch on that a lot. Premium
We're gonna talk
hospitality.
about that a lot because
Yeah, yeah.
there's so much money there. So the right holders get the global value, but the promoter has to really like hustle to extract the maximum local sort of tangible assets. And unfortunately for the promoter, that's where operational risk lives. The rights holders getting their money no matter what.
Yep.
The
They get their
promoter
check right up front.
right up front, the promoter, they operate in risk. They may or may not get their money. It's a gamble.
Now, it is in the rights holder's best interest for an event to be successful, for a
Certainly.
promoter to be successful. While the rights holders, they get their money and that could be it. For an event to be successful means you're going to continue collecting that. There's recurring revenue coming in. Depending on the type of event, there's other ways for them to make money. Again, sponsorship. An attractive location can attract new sponsorship. Again, we see that with Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is top of mind because it's coming up and we'll be there. And there's so many sponsorships that came in to Formula One rights holder because of Las Vegas, which I know it's confusing because Las Vegas actually happens to be the rights holder and the promoter all in one.
It's
First time ever
unique
that's happened.
case study. Yes, it's a unique case study. So we won't focus on it too much because we want this episode to be more broad appeal about,
Yeah.
more international racetracks and the business of international racetracks. Las Vegas is a unique case study. In Spanish, we say the exception makes the rule. In this case, it's sort of a very confusing rule.
Yeah. So as we were going, we mentioned premium hospitality.
Yes, I'm
We
excited to
mentioned how the promoter needs to find ways to make their margin somewhere. General admission doesn't cut it. And that's where the comment we made, I think it was episode 0, about people not understanding supply and demand. That's truly where this conversation comes into play. It is not enough to sell, general admission tickets because that makes the fans happy. Yes, as a fan, this is where the conversation gets tough. But as a fan, I would love for everybody to get access, of course, right?
Of course.
But for
And
these
and also you never wanna see empty grandstands. I
no, of course not.
unfortunately see it often at IndyCar, and that's not because of pricing, that's because of, lack of promotion of the series. That's a whole other episode we
Mhm,
can do.
mhm.
But seeing empty grandstands is depressing. Nobody wants empty grandstands, of course.
So Paddock Club, VIP suites, experiences, the stuff that everybody wants to go to and wants to get tickets to or get access to, which is also the same thing that there's a whole subset of people complain about.
Yes.
So that experience, the premium hospitality, there's an entire ecosystem, economy behind premium hospitality at these events, especially at events like Monaco, where you have companies, experiential companies that are selling yachts, opportunities to watch the race from a yacht and hobnob with other folks just like you, 30, 40, 50, $60,000. I had someone reach out to me. They wanted to go to the Singapore Grand Prix and they asked me about they wanted a premium experience. And so I connected them with a contact of ours and I said, "Listen, this is your go-to guy. He
Yeah.
has all the connections." And they were like, "Money's no object. We want that cool experience." When you have someone say those words like money's no object, we just want to experience this in a way that's either once in a lifetime or, maybe people that can afford it more often than once in a lifetime. How can you as a promoter say, "Oh, well, I want to fill more. I want just more general admission."
You
It
can't
just
because
doesn't
the
make
reality
sense.
it doesn't make sense because the reality of a racetrack is that hospitality is the significant margin driver. So maybe some people listening are familiar with how airlines make money. And if they are, and if you're not, I'll quickly explain it, and I'm sure we'll get messages of people correcting me. But airlines make the bulk of their money in their business class section, and
Is this
in
how
the
it works
last
in Colombia or is this how it works for
this
the
is
whole world?
globally, darling.
I'm kidding.
So an airline makes the bulk of their money selling business class section and loyalty credit cards. So that's think of partnerships like American Express or Visa, for instance, where we get miles. That has allowed sort of airlines to act sort of in a way as unregulated banks, and it's made very profitable deals for them that can subsidize flying often at a loss, perhaps, or even breaking even. So if you think about racetracks, they follow a similar model just in terms of the business class seating, right? So if we think of business class seating as the suites and the corporate packages, they're supremely high priced because they're bankrolling the entire operation. So luxury inventory delivers depending on the track, depending on the package, 5 to 10 times a higher profit margin, right? So one standard ticket and you're getting 10 times higher profit margin, I mean, there's no competition there, right? So you need to have a good balance sheet at the end. This is a business. This is not a charity organization. So it's kind of simple math. You failed to sell out the suites. You might not even break even if you sell the entire hundreds of thousands of grandstand seats. So we like to say that the profit isn't with the fans in the grandstands. It's with the execs in the suites. That's the reality.
When it comes down to that balance sheet and you as a promoter need to continue, pay that fee up front to host, need to absorb all the risk. You need to provide experiences for everybody. You still have there still is a level of experience you have to provide for even folks in general admission and grandstands. Like there's still a level of experience. And I'll use Las Vegas as another example. It's the most recent Grand Prix I have been to. They do a great job in the different grandstands to create experiences for the people that bought in that grandstand. So if you buy a ticket in the Sphere area, it's a party separate from the area over by the start finish area. It's a
Yeah, it's
separate
great.
party from the Paddock Club, obviously. It's a separate party from the different turns, the Harmon Zone. There are different experiences. They've done a really good job at saying we're going to give unique experiences to people in different grandstands. Now, those tickets they're reasonable by, I would say, maybe Americans' standards, ticketing standards. Globally, I do understand that tickets are not cheap, but there is you get a really good experience there.
You do, and I've even heard people saying, "Oh, I sat here this year, maybe next year I wanna experience this." So you're also creating, like, excitement around people wanting to come back and experience a different zone. I've personally heard multiple people say that to me. So they've done something quite clever, and I think that that is a model that can be replicated at other racetracks for sure.
We'll shift gears a little bit. Track that's used once. Now, road or street circuit can only be really used once, right?
Yeah,
Monaco, it takes
by
months
definition.
to break it down and put it together.
Even more. I think I've been to Monaco in middle of March, and they've already been putting up
Yeah,
grandstands. So
it's I have a great video that maybe I'll find a way to share. A good friend of mine lives in Monaco, and he was he showed a video of the whole tear down, like put together and tear down, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3-4 months before, and it
exactly.
takes about a month after. So you've got 5 months a year,
You're living in fancy Monaco, and for 4 to 5 months out of the year, there's some kind of chaos for sure. Because I
but
know
not
as a
every
fact, I was there mid-March, and it was already a lot of stuff going on.
but not everything's a street circuit. There still are
No, no, no,
regular
there's
tracks. A
yeah,
track that is used once or for one type of race, one series, very underutilized, right? We talked about promoter making their money or a track making its money. How are they making money beyond that one time influx? There has to be a year-round business. It has to be. It's
categorically.
essential.
Yes.
So I ask you, what other types of revenue streams can these tracks tap into when the big global series leaves town?
So there's sort of the old school ones. So a track really to be profitable, to have a reason to exist, needs to be sort of as infrastructure asset, right? So that means that beyond the marquee event that happens only once a year, maybe if you're lucky, you also get a MotoGP race. So you get two marquee events out of the year, right? But other than that, then that leaves a lot of free time for your track. So you need to do things like OEM testing, corporate driving programs, track rentals, storage, um even you, and you can touch this a little bit, they're getting really creative with the type of events and experiences that they're doing. You have some great insight on things happening at Austin, but the reality is, there I go, that you need a healthy
Only
B2B
once.
stream. At one time, guys, put it on the tracker. Without a healthy B2B income stream to sort of mitigate the cash flow that happens once a year, the track is doomed to fail. And you see, there's loads of tracks in Europe, for instance, that are sort of dead and underused, or not used. They're ghost tracks because they didn't figure out how to get a healthy B2B income throughout the year. And that is critical for the long-term survival of a track.
Yeah. You see, I love how you called out B2B income and it
Yeah, it has to be.
because it is. And corporations have the money. Hard stop.
Hard sell.
And where I try to blend or explain how this works to fans that don't necessarily understand why things have gotten so corporate. Things have gotten so expensive in general. So
Right.
unless you, the fan, wants to eat all that cost, like, could you imagine how much a lot of these things would cost us, sporting events, if there was no corporate suites, if there was no
Yeah.
corporate sponsorship? Like,
People
could you
complain how
imagine
expensive. Imagine.
I
It would be crazy.
if
It
it
would be
was truly
absurd.
one of those experiences where, it's totally fan powered? Okay, great. Are you gonna eat the cost of insurances and all the hospitality and all of the food and beverage? Like, are you gonna front for all that? Because it would be outrageous. You think it's expensive to go to a restaurant now and buy a bottle of wine. Could you imagine what or a drink? Could you imagine what that would cost without all the corporate?
I love that you mentioned insurance because we haven't touched on that, but that is a huge cost as well for promoters, right? Imagine the level of cost
Yeah.
just to insure 300,000 people, and the drivers and the helicopters and the medical care. Like, the amount of money, right? It's
Forget about that. Medical, security,
ugh,
all of those things that you don't even think about. That costs a lot of money. A lot.
yeah. So then another thing that people may not know about is something that is called the subsidy factor, right? So many races are city backed, and it makes sense for them because it has citywide economic impact, right? There's hundreds of thousands of people coming into your city. So that means hotels, restaurants, they're spending at your bars. It really generates a lot of income for the city. So a city will choose to subsidize a race just for the opportunity to be a host city. because that's a big deal. You can boast that you have a Grand Prix, and not every city in the world can boast that. In fact, very few, right? So it's a massive deal for the cities. It brings in beaucoup de bucks and is massive PR. It attracts a lot of tourism, not only for the race, but then people get to see your city, your lovely city, on television. And then you might consider it as a destination for your next family holiday, right? So that is invaluable for a city. So they choose to subsidize some races because of that.
Yeah. The subsidy there, or I guess that aspect of it, tying that in to economic impact and economic impact is huge, right? For a visitors bureau, or again in the Las Vegas world, you have the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and you have Las Vegas, who's paid direct sponsorship into Formula One, close to $60 million, I believe it was. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but they paid a direct sponsorship and a support fee to host Formula One. And it might not sound like a lot, but still that's public dollars, right? So
Yeah,
that has to
exactly.
has to bring money back
You need to
somehow.
justify it. Anytime you're using public money, you need to justify it. There has to be a return because you're going to have a lot of
Yeah.
angry people.
Yeah, and there
And
was there was
people can be opinionated.
in 2023, the first Vegas race, the economic impact was estimated at over 1.2 billion. There was actual revenue in 2024 of 930 plus million. To me, the gamble paid off. That paid off. Those are huge numbers, and it's going to stick around for another 10 years.
But because you can justify, because you can say, this is going to fund public schools. This is going to get us more teachers in classrooms, road, infrastructure. So then you're not only telling the people, hey, we need to spend all this money, we need to inconvenience you by shutting down streets and all this for X amount of time. But the reality is, guess what? We got you $1 billion in return. So that's going to go directly into the city. So then the people are like, you know what? I can be inconvenienced for 2 weeks out of the year. That's fine. Or whatever. I'm not sure how long it takes to build the Vegas
Takes
track.
quite a while. It's quite a bit of inconvenience for locals there.
Maybe a month.
It's a bit, yeah. And also here's the other thing too. We'll talk, and I think we'll talk about this. I'm going to ask you a question that I think you're going to touch on this, but we talked about Monaco. Monaco's been there for 100 years, the race there. So it's so embedded in the culture of living in Monaco, the race, the historic race, all of that is embedded into the culture, motorsport racing in general. Yes, it's an inconvenience, but you don't live in Monaco if you don't know that, right? Like,
You already
that's
moved
happening
there knowing that.
in Las
And I venture
Vegas.
guess
Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just said this is a very unofficial poll, and please, Charles Leclerc, call in if you disagree with me. Please, Charles, call in. I venture guess that Monegasques in general, if there was a referendum about whether to keep the Grand Prix or not, they'd probably all want to keep it. Or I'm not going to say all, but I would say a majority would want to keep it. It's part of who they are. It's their
Yeah.
essence as a people. They're so proud of the event. If you're lucky enough to have ever been to Monaco, they're so proud of this race, of the heritage, of the culture around motorsport. So it's really other people who detest the racing in Monaco or don't think it's fun, or you can't pass. Those are more the people that don't like Monaco. I think that the Monegasque people as a whole are very on side in this one, and that's just a very unofficial take, and I urge Charles Leclerc to call in if he disagrees.
Las Vegas, the community there, they don't know motorsport. They don't care about Formula One. So it'll be a slog for Formula
Yeah.
One and the Las Vegas Grand Prix for a while before they become part of the community. They still don't feel like part of the community. It's kind of like this thing that came in and disrupted our world. Now, mind you, they've also taken the slowest weekend of the year and made it one of the busiest. But that doesn't matter to people, right? If you inconvenience them, they're annoyed. And until they build up that motorsport aura, it's not going to matter. Same thing with Chicago, NASCAR. They had a street race, and people complained. Now, I heard a lot of good things about it, but there was also a lot of other issues. And is there a motorsport community in the city of Chicago, in the actual city? I'm not talking about Chicagoland or anything like that. I'm talking about the actual city that people wanted to see that race there. I don't know. Now I believe they're reassessing, and they're not going to have it this year. They might come back next, the year after, or whatever it might be. But you have to build up that motorsport
You
community. So
have to.
I know you're going to talk on this, so I'm going to ask you this question, kind of a final chat here. If we were advising someone on acquiring a new Grand Prix asset, what would be the top 3 non-negotiable items on their sustainability checklist?
So I think the way you and I'll speak sort of for both of us because we are very in sync. It's sort of in our, although we disagree on a lot of things, we agree on business 100%, which I is a great thing for a partnership. I think that the first thing is something I spoke about previously. You have to control your premium inventory. That's non-negotiable. You have to sell out that inventory the highest rate possible. It's life or death for a circuit, really. For a race to have longevity, you need a promoter to make money. For the promoter to make money, they need to sell out this premium inventory, right? So that's right off the top, the first one. I think the second one we also touched on is your revenue diversification, right? So you have to have cash flow, this B2B cash flow coming in year round, or else you're going to end up with these ghost tracks of Europe that are everywhere. You have to find a way to monetize this circuit. People are doing it in unique ways. It's not only the ways I mentioned now, the OEM test days or track days. There's suites being built. There's people who can fly in and bring in their own Ferrari. There's all kinds of really fun, creative ways to make money off your racetrack. You need to get in on those and you need to find some very clever B2B partnerships.
Speaking of that,
Yeah.
COTA has
Yeah, speak to that. You have something. Yeah.
the T11 car condos that they've built, and it is this luxury experience. And I do want to talk about luxury in another episode because I think luxury is a very specific word and it's a very specific phenomenon that Formula One brings on, but also other types of racing. It's luxury automotive. It's a luxury automotive country club essentially. You can
Okay.
buy these homes, condos. They range from, I believe, if you were able to get in at the very, very beginning, they were you can get a smaller one for 400, almost 500,000 US, but they went all the way up to
Cheap.
2.45 million. You could get a small 1,500 square foot all the way up to 6,000 square feet. It's at turn 11 at COTA.
Nice.
And there are some really incredible, incredible amenities. I'm actually pulling it up right now because I don't want to miss out on anything. There's a private race platform, viewing platform. There's custom build out, so you can build out however you want. There's an entire clubhouse. So think country club. There's a pool. There's conference spaces. There's other clubhouse amenities, like restaurant and bar, just for your community there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's a mezzanine space. You get dedicated track time, which again, this is why, similar to a golf club, right? A country club, you get dedicated golf time. Well, you get
This sounds a
dedicated.
little bit like the John Travolta home that you hear about that he flies people fly in their
People fly right into it.
and
Yeah.
just park them in their house.
But yeah, so these things like that's really cool. It's a whole,
Amazing.
that's a motorsport or a racing culture community they're building there.
Yes.
You can buy into that and you have access to other like-minded folks. All it does is it gives the track, it gives them another reason to stay around as long as possible. Now they'll want to bring more racing to the track, right? Because you have a group of people that are sitting here. They don't want to sit around an empty track
Of
constantly that
course.
they can't use.
But also that brings HOA fees, right? Like that
Oh,
brings
yeah.
other revenue streams.
I
So
gotta find I have to find the numbers. I had them at one point because the developer had reached out to me. This is a couple years back. We had talked about doing some co-promotion thing together. But it's it's very, very cool. Very, very cool.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, car condos.
So going back, you said sustainability. So we said you control your premium inventory, you diversify your revenue, and then I think that there's a third one that is really important, and you have to forecast realistically. So it takes time, as you were saying, to build a racing following. You need to establish yourself as a racing destination. You can't assume a sellout. Maybe the first year people decide to show up because, oh wow, it's
New.
Vegas, it's wherever. You need to really establish yourself. You can't assume it's going to sell out year over year. but you also know that your hosting fee is fixed, right? So you have to really be careful with your forecasting, be realistic, and really that sort of gives me like a 3A or a fourth one, which is listen to your racing community. It's just what you were talking about. Build a racing community. Tap into the local fans because they're going to be major allies for your racetrack. They're going to be the ones when people stop showing up, they're going to be the ones that keep showing up and are there for you to support the racetrack. So you need to really listen to them, tap into them, and be kind to that fan base.
I mean, I mean, without the community, you don't have anything. And
No,
without a community that is going to become your advocate, right? This is like anything else. Your community is going to become your advocate. And if you don't have that, you miss out. I
it's the
think that,
Indianapolis, sorry to interrupt, but it's like if
yeah.
you think about Indianapolis Motor Speedway, right?
Mhm.
There are people who have been season ticket holders at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for generations. The season ticket holders, some of these people don't even follow IndyCar the rest of the year. They show up for this one event because it's
Yeah.
their family tradition,
Yep.
and they've had these season tickets, and I have goosebumps because it means so much to them. It means so much to these families to go to the Indy 500. It's part of their family's heritage, their legacy. That track has done a phenomenal job of doing that, of building this community,
And
and truly,
yeah,
they hit it out of the park. They knocked it out of the park.
the Speedway has become a character in and of itself.
Yeah, it is a
It is
character.
the main character in its own conversation.
Yeah. Literally, people who do not follow any other IndyCar race will show up there and root like it was the last race of life because the racetrack itself has so much history, so much mystique, such a beautiful community has been built around that track. Obviously, that took a long time, but that is something to emulate and to try to build in your local city at your local track. Those people will show up year after year if you treat them well.
I think you've made it clear that what's important for a promoter to do is to focus on things like real estate, negotiation. We mentioned premium hospitality. Those are so important. It's not enough the racing is very important. Yes, 100%. That goes without saying. But in today's world, there's so many other factors that go into it. It's not just a track, go race around the track and call it a day. There's so many other things that go into it. And I think the circuit business itself or the being in that world, it's a discipline of leverage. Yes, there is the hosting fee that you have to pay. That's your entry ticket, right? So knowing that and understanding
That's
that
your fixed cost, like, we all have fixed monthly
yeah,
costs, right? That is
understanding that
your fixed cost.
understanding that premium hospitality is your profit driver. And if you don't own that, you have to truly own that experience. Experience. We use the word experience for a reason. If you're not owning that premium luxury hospitality experience, it's you're just a glorified marketing platform for
100.
somebody else, for the rights holder. Like it's a past, you're a pastor. Like, okay, yeah, we have our race there. It's a nice layout, but they don't do anything for the fans. And listen, we've had a lot of conversations where we've heard things like there are some historic tracks that are not really budging on wanting to come up to the modern age with amenities for folks. And there's a younger generation that's saying, you know what, I'd rather go to Monaco because I want to go hang out on the yachts. Like, I don't want to go to this other track that's so historic and that's,
Yeah. Well, if you think
incredible racing, but I'm using a porta potty and I'm waiting in lines and it's hot. They don't even have water, things like that. So all of that goes into effect. You don't want to just be somebody else's marketing platform.
no, absolutely not. And you think about it, even the biggest corporations, they can only buy out certain hospitality suites a year. They can't buy them at every race.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make yours the most attractive one. Yours has to have the best experience so that Qatar Airways or American Express or whatever humongous corporation is going to buy a hospitality suite wants to buy yours.
I think on that note, we're going to call this one. I think that's it for our paddock chat or our circuit chat this week. But we want you to make sure you come back for our next episode and the next episode. What you
All
can
the
do,
episodes.
subscribe to the podcast. Any of your favorite podcast player, just go and hit a subscribe. We are publishing weekly. We also do have a newsletter that comes out multiple times a week that is basically an addendum or in addition to this podcast, but it goes a little bit deeper onto just the world of the money behind your favorite racing series and what's happening behind the scenes, how the sausage is made.
Perhaps it speaks of the business of speed, would you say?
Yes,
Oh,
that's why we call it the business of speed. I'm Vincenzo Landino.
I'm Lali Mikkelsen.
We will see you on the next one.
Ciao for now.
Ciao, ciao.